Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's story begins in a mansion so large it felt more like a museum than a home. Marble floors echoed with every step. Crystal chandeliers caught the light like frozen fireworks. And silence ruled the halls except for the soft shuffle of a young maid pushing a cleaning cart. Her name was Alina. To most people in that house, she was invisible. Just another uniform, another quiet presence meant to blend into the background and never be noticed. Alina kept her eyes down as she worked. Not because she lacked confidence, but because she had learned that in places like this, being unseen was safer. The wealthy guests who came and went rarely bothered to learn the names of the staff. And the owner of the mansion, Victor Harrington, was no different. Victor Harrington was a self-made millionaire, famous for his sharp tongue, ruthless business deals, and a reputation that preceded him wherever he went. He believed money proved intelligence, power, and worth. Anyone without it, in his eyes, was simply lesser. He threw extravagant parties not because he loved people, but because he loved being admired. That night, the mansion buzzed with laughter, music, and clinking glasses. A charity gala was underway, though many whispered it was more about Victor showing off than helping anyone. Alina was assigned to clean near the ballroom, quietly wiping surfaces while guests danced and joked, dressed in clothes worth more than her yearly salary. Victor stood at the center of attention, drink in hand, surrounded by wealthy friends. He was in an especially arrogant mood, laughing loudly, telling stories about his success, soaking in praise. That's when his eyes landed on Alina. She had paused for just a moment near the edge of the room, watching the dancers. Not out of envy but longing. Music had always spoken to her. Her fingers twitched slightly, as if remembering steps her body once knew by heart. Victor noticed the look and smirked. "Well, what do we have here?" he said loudly, drawing attention. The music softened as people turned to see what amused him. Alina froze. Her heart pounded as dozens of eyes fell on her. "Do you enjoy the tango?" Victor asked, his tone dripping with mockery. I like music, sir," Alina replied softly. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Victor took a step closer, swirling his drink. "Tell you what," he said, grinning. "Dance the tango, right now, and I'll marry you." The room exploded with laughter. Some guests clapped sarcastically. Others shook their heads, amused by what they saw as a harmless joke. To them, it was entertainment. To Alina, it felt like the floor had vanished beneath her feet. Her cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear. This was humiliation, plain and simple. A rich man's cruel joke at the expense of a maid who couldn't fight back. But something unexpected happened. Alina looked up. Her eyes, usually lowered, met Victor's gaze. And for the first time that night, the laughter began to fade. There was no anger in her expression. No tears, just a quiet resolve. "If I dance," she said calmly, "will you promise to watch?" The confidence in her voice caught everyone off guard. Victor blinked, surprised. Then he laughed again. "Of course, by all means, entertain us." Someone gestured for the music to start again. A tango melody filled the rooms, low, dramatic, full of tension. Alina stepped forward. At first, her movements were small, measured. Then, as if something inside her awakened, her posture changed. Her back straightened, her steps grew bold, precise, powerful. The shy maid vanished, replaced by a woman who commanded the floor. She danced alone, yet it felt as though an invisible partner guided her. Each turn was sharp, each pause intentional. Her arms told a story of passion, loss, and resilience. The rhythm flowed through her like it had always belonged there. The room fell silent. Guests stopped whispering. Phones lowered. Glasses froze midair. Victor's smile slowly faded. He had expected clumsy steps, something to laugh at. Instead, he watched a performance that stole the breath from his chest. Alina didn't just dance. She became the tango. The music ended. For a moment, there was nothing but stunned silence. Then, one person began to clap. Another followed. Soon, the entire room erupted into applause. Alina stood still, breathing hard, her chest rising and falling. She bowed slightly, not as a maid, but as a performer. Victor felt something unfamiliar twist in his stomach, admiration, and something close to unease. "Well," he said, forcing a laugh. "That was unexpected." Alina met his eyes again. "Thank you for watching, sir." She turned and walked away, leaving the crowd buzzing with excitement and questions. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. Her dance replayed in his mind over and over. The way she moved, the confidence, the fire. It didn't match the story he had created about her. It didn't match the uniform. The next morning, Victor asked his staff manager about Alina, a maid. The manager said, "Yes, sir. She's been here about a year. Very quiet, very hardworking, nothing else." Victor asked. The manager hesitated. "She mentioned once that she used to dance. But, well, that was before." "Before what?" Victor didn't ask. He dismissed the manager and stared out the window, irritated by his own curiosity. Over the following days, Victor found excuses to cross paths with Alina. He noticed things he hadn't before, how she carried herself, how she listened more than she spoke, how her eyes held stories she never shared. One afternoon, he stopped her in the hallway. "Alina," he said, testing her name on his tongue. "Yes, sir." "Where did you learn to dance like that?" She paused. A long time ago, that's not an answer. She met his gaze. It's the only one I'm ready to give. Victor frowned. No one spoke to him like that, yet he didn't feel angry. He felt intrigued. Days turned into weeks. The mansion felt less empty. Victor found himself waiting for moments to talk to her, to hear her thoughts, her quiet observations about the world. One evening, he surprised himself by saying, "I was cruel to you." Alina looked at him, surprised. "Yes, you were." Pause. "I'm not used to apologizing," Victor admitted, "but I am sorry." She studied him for a long moment. "Thank you," she said. "That matters more than you think." Something shifted between them. Victor began inviting Alina to dance privately in the empty ballroom after hours. At first, she refused. Then, reluctantly, she agreed in one condition: no jokes, no audience. He agreed. As they danced, Victor learned discipline, patience, humility. Alina corrected his posture, his timing. She laughed when he stumbled, not unkindly, but honestly. For the first time in years, Victor felt small, in a good way. One night, after a particularly intense practice, Victor asked the question that had been burning inside him. "What's your secret, Alina?" She stopped dancing. The silence was heavy. Finally, she spoke. "I wasn't always a maid," she said quietly. "I was a professional dancer. International competitions. Big stages. Big dreams." Victor's eyes widened. "I had sponsors," she continued. "A future, until my family lost everything. My father fell ill. Debts piled up. I quit dancing to survive." She looked down. "I cleaned floors so my family could eat." Victor felt shame crawl up his spine. All the jokes, the mocking, the way he had reduced her to nothing in front of everyone. "And you?" she asked softly. "What's your excuse for looking down on people?" The question hit harder than any accusation. Weeks later, another gala filled the mansion. This time, Victor stood on the stage. "I owe you all an apology," he said to the stunned guests, especially to one person. He extended his hand. "Alina," she stepped forward, heart pounding. Victor looked at her, not as a millionaire, but as a man stripped of arrogance. "I once said something cruel. I said, if you danced, I'd marry you. I meant it as a joke, but I was wrong." The room was silent. "I don't ask for your forgiveness," he continued. "I asked for the chance to earn it." Music began to play. Victor held out his hand. "Will you dance with me?" Alina hesitated. Then she placed her hand in his. They danced up perfectly. Not flawlessly, but honestly. Two people meeting in the middle. The crowd watched, not laughing this time, but moved. Victor never knew her secret that night when he mocked her. But in the end, it was her strength, not her past, that changed him forever. And that's the lesson. Never judge someone by the role they're forced to play. Because sometimes, the person you mock carries a story and a power that can change everything.